It's not unusual for a parent to think of their child as perfect. Their intentions are good, and maybe it's really true that little Jenny is the prettiest girl in the country, or that little Billy is the smartest boy in the whole wide world. But a parent's denial of their child's problems usually makes things worse. And sometimes delusions can lead to things like diabetes, disease, and even early death. Now, I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but here are a few things that need to be said. Within the last few years, a couple of interesting psychological studies have been released, one from each side of the Atlantic. In the United States, a Harvard University study analyzed data on thousands of people enrolled in the 2006 National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. The interest was in people's perception of their potential weight issues and how similar they would be to a scientific view. For example, if a person had a BMI of 35, which indicates obesity, would that person agree that they were obese, or would they think otherwise? A similar study was done in Britain. This one surveyed 2,000 adults, with 657 of them categorized in the UK as obese. This, by the way, means a body mass index of at least 30. They were also asked for perceptions on their weight, to determine whether it matched Britain's clinical definitions. It turns out that, in both countries, many people aren't sure. But it will be said that Americans are closer to reality when it comes to their weight. In America, it was found that about 25% of people who are heavier than their ideal weight were not so sure about that. Within this 25%, many thought they were at their ideal weight, while some even reported themselves as underweight. But the contrast between opinion and clinical reality was even more striking in the UK. Of those who were clinically obese, it was found that fewer than 10% would describe themselves so. By gender, males were a little less likely to agree with the clinical view than females. Only 7% of obese men thought of themselves so, compared to 11% of obese women. Now, it's difficult not to be of two minds on this phenomenon. On the one hand, it's refreshing to hear that so many people are unconcerned about the shape and size of their bodies. But researchers in both countries were concerned, as both teams remarked that this lack of awareness also meant that bad eating habits and sedentary lifestyle were going unchecked. In the US, for example, it was found about 58% of people who had underestimated their weight had also not bothered trying to lose any of it within the last year. And this is bad news from a health perspective, since that excess fat makes us more likely to get diabetes, cancer, and a host of other ailments. But how could so many people be misperceiving their weight issues so badly? It may have something to do with the new norm. Obesity rates all over the world are continuing to climb. In the United States, the rate has risen a full 3 percentage points in just the last 7 years, from 25% in 2007 to 28% in 2014. And when so many people start to look the same, it's easy to forget that it ain't evolution, but rather an unhealthy global food environment and other modern trends. And our uncomfortable comfort with excess fat may get worse before it gets better, according to another UK study. This one involved 3,000 British children, 396 of whom were clinically diagnosed as very overweight. But don't tell that to the parents, as only 4 of them reported noticing any weight problem with their kids. Now, love may be blind, but so too are many diabetics. It's time to get realistic, so here are some realities. Bill Cosby is a scumbag. The Tonight Show is funnier with Jimmy Fallon than with Jay Leno, and excess fat in the body increases the risk of disease. So let's keep the realities flowing, stay aware, and all commit to better health.